story of the Manilaners, who were the Jewish refugees who came to the Philippines and found a refuge and a home, really, away from the Nazi oppression of the Jews during World War II. And I think that that's a very, very good sort of encapsulation of the moral situation at that time. It's not just true of the Germans, I think it was true of the Americans, and I think it was true of the Filipinos too. And that's what makes this chapter of history so notable, is that Manuel Quezon, who was, as you know, the president of the Philippine Commonwealth at this time, actually did something. He stood up to be counted, and he put the Philippines on notice and said, it's time to declare ourselves by action or inaction. And he took the action to declare an open door policy for Jewish refugees. Okay, so really we date all of this beginning in 1935. And as you guys all know, U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt signs the Tiding-McDuffie Act on November 15th, creating the Philippine Commonwealth. So here's FDR, and then standing just behind him is Manuel Quezon. Exactly 2 months earlier, we have the imposition of the Nuremberg Laws. The Nuremberg Laws are a group of laws, policies, stuff, legal prohibitions. They started on September 15, 1935, and they made more and more and more of them. And what they did was they progressively disenfranchised Jews in Germany and then in Nazi-occupied territories. They made it impossible for Jews to live in Europe, essentially. Quezon really had a commitment to social justice, and he said in 1937, the Constitution of the Philippines imposes upon this government the inescapable duty of promoting social justice. And let it be known that I shall use all the powers of my office to win this fight. Now remember, and this all goes back to your high school history classes too, Quezon did come from the Tao, right? I mean, he did not come from one of the elite families. And he really did, to a large extent, care about the plight of the little people, the masa. And when he talked about social justice, he largely meant the masa, the common folk of the Philippines. This was a special barong that was made exclusively for Quezon to wear at the inauguration of the Commonwealth. And these are, here's the Philippine flag and here's the American flag, and up here on his collar is embroidered Tidings McDuffie. So this was a special barong for the inauguration of the Philippine Commonwealth. Actually, I got this picture from the Quezon family. And it's a wonderful picture because he looks so happy, right? He looks so jaunty. So when word got out that the Philippines was willing to accept Jewish refugees, letters started flooding in. They flooded into Kisan, they flooded into U.S. High Commissioner McNutt, they flooded into FDR. Everybody was writing and saying, please authorize visas for me, my wife, and my children, for my brother and his family, for my cousin and his family. And they're heartbreaking letters. And some of these letters also are at the National Library. But what Quezon did was he donated the plot of land that he had bought for his only son as his patrimony. This is Manuel Luis Quezon II, Nonong, right? He donated Nonong's land to the Jewish Refugee Committee for a period of 10 years, and they built a communal house and farm on that land for the homeless refugees. And it was adjoining the Quezon family's own family home in Marikina. This was the presidential getaway. And this is actually the Quezon family home. This is not the refugee home, this is the Quezon family home.
Is that in Marikina?
In Marikina. It was destroyed during the war.
Destroyed?
Yeah, destroyed during the war. Both of the houses, both the Quezon family home and the refugee home, were destroyed during the war. And so this was an incredibly generous thing to do, right? I mean, not only was he loaning his son's patrimony, but he was also making these Jewish refugees literally his next door neighbors, and giving them a home, a farm. It was a kibbutz in the Philippines. And on April 23rd, 1940, they officially, ceremonially opened what was called Marikina Hall. That was the group home and farm. And this is the dedication ceremony. Here's Kisan sitting down, and you can see he looks skinny, he looks frail, he looks tired. I mean, he's sitting down because he can't stand up for the whole ceremony, right? And at the end of his dedication speech, it concludes, "It is my hope and indeed my expectation that the people of the Philippines will have in the future every reason to be glad that when the time of need came, their country was glad to extend to a persecuted people a hand of welcome."